Hello YouTube, welcome to another video. Today we're gonna be talking about hybrid rapier build. It's basically gonna be the same similar build to the one that I did for the musket, the last one. So we are quickly gonna go through what is gonna happen in the video. Attributes first, nothing is gonna be changing since, as I said, we are using pretty much the same stats, same skills that we did with the musket. So attributes, gem mechanic, the way that it works, how it conversion works. Weapon master is, I'm gonna show you two builds. One is gonna be DPS related, which you should probably use in PvP as well. And there is the movement one. Movement one is a bit similar, but it loses flurry, which is your main DPS component, but we're gonna talk about it in a second. And gear perks last. Alright, so let's begin. Attributes wise, what you want to aim for is pretty much same as a musket. 150 intelligence is the main perk of this build. Why? Like, it's not that it's needed, but the actual fact that 15% of elemental damage, which half your damage is gonna be elemental, is very important. Because whenever you slot your gem into the musket, when it comes to the elemental conversion, the way that it works, stat distribution goes like this. A musket scales with dexterity and intelligence. Dexterity is the main stat, and for every stat in dexterity you get 0.9 damage for each stat in dex. For intelligence it's a bit different. It goes to 0.65, but whenever you convert, use the elemental conversion gem, what essentially happens to the actual weapon itself, it also, I was talking about musket, but rapier has the same scaling, so it doesn't matter. It converts from 0.65 to 0.85, I think, so they are pretty much similar. You don't really lose on DPS all that much, so investing into this one, the only key difference is the perks, so the thresholds of 50, 150 and all those. So the one from intelligence that you really want is this one. So elemental damage 15%, which is gonna make your elemental component actually do more damage than your physical one in specific cases. And 10 critical damage, this one is always gonna be good because you're gonna be critting a lot, especially when it comes to rapier. And magic attacks, this one I'm not really sure yet. I haven't tested it if it works for like the normal attacks, since it might work on the magical component, but I haven't tested that part. So let's go up here. What we have, the ideal stats you would want to have is 50 con, at least 50 constitution that you want for this perk alone. Pretty much the first two is one that you want to aim in PvP, especially. This one is very mandatory in order to survive, because rapier, unlike musket, is it's a melee weapon. Like, you will need to have some kind of form of both mitigation. We're gonna talk about mitigation in a bit, but constitution, very important stat. If you play with strictly musket, which I explained in the last video, you can go for the full dexterity build. Like, you can skip the constitution part. You want to have it, but it's not as important as it is for the rapier builds. So 150 in dex to get the dodges cost less 10 stamina. This one is gonna be just any dexterity build is relying on this one. Alright, now that we went through the attributes, I want to just say that all the dexterity based weapons, so when we are talking about spear, when we are talking about musket, when we are talking about rapier, bow, especially the bow as well, because bow just scales with dex, so that one is kind of affected a lot. All dexterity based weapons have issues in they are just not competitive enough. While the spear is very good in crowd control and all that, DPS wise none of these weapons is as where it should be. Like, they need to change that, but until it changes, the current meta with the great axes, pretty much all the strength weapons are good, and everything that is with the dex is on a bottom tier. Musket is a bottom tier weapon when it comes to PvP, just the way that it works. It just doesn't hit enough. Once the armor changes come through, which should be soon, I'm hoping it's gonna be soon, so that is gonna change, but they need to buff dexterity weapons. The only one who is pretty much out of this picture is rapier itself, for the reason being that it has insane amount of DPS potential. Unlike all of these other weapons, nothing can compare to it. Reason being, you can't see it here, but it's all about cooldowns. Rapier has like not big of the cooldowns, but they don't really matter because they don't exist. If you hit something, cooldowns are not gonna be there. As long as you keep hitting stuff, once we go to the skill tree, everything is gonna be explained. But first, let's go about that gem conversion. I explained how it works. What you want to have is depending on the type of content that you're doing. The current two dungeons that we got, one, the Genesis one, is Angry Earth. So Angry Earth is pretty much one of the worst enemies for any dexterity based build, but essentially when you're doing the conversion gems, any dexterity build would work as long as you are doing like the hybrid builds that we are talking about today. So Ignited Gem, I'm not using the best one, you should do the 50-50 split one, and Angry Earth Bane. So this would be the perfect role for a weapon. Like critical chance can be changed. Maybe you can get a flurry on this one if you don't get it to the armor pieces. If you're planning to do like any of the PvE stuff, this is the stat wise that you want to like look for. So Dexterity, Ignited Gem for the Angry Earth, and this is where it gets like switching out. When I talked about musket, I said like 4 different muskets. Same applies for the rapier. You want to have one for each different type of content that you're doing. So for invasion, that's pretty much the only place where like pure dex builds are fine, but still the hybrid ones are gonna do slightly more DPS just because the way that you splitting the DPS and not focusing on a single stat, because there is still gonna be diminishing returns once you reach like the certain thresholds. So let's go into the builds themselves. The first one that I'm gonna showcase is my main build, and that one is the DPS build. So the only thing here, I misclicked this one. This is not you don't really need this one. I'm gonna go slowly through the skills themselves and gonna talk about them. So you can probably go with this one, middle swipe. You do more damage with like normal attacks, even though like it's not your main thing. So heavy puncture, not that important. You don't really have too many options. For example, Perfectionist is fine that you take. This one is fine, and 3 stamina on any hit, like it's okay, but like it's not important. Like this one is up to you, like whatever you want to take. We're gonna be respecting, as I said, like we're gonna be talking about both builds. So leveling wise, if you want to like level fast and efficient with the rapier, there is like a few things that you need to take care of. So like itself, it's a very precision weapon. Like Grace 3 itself is it's all about your way of dealing with the way that the enemy is gonna deal with you. So like evade is basically another dodge. This is a very good ability, I just suck at using it. 5 seconds cooldown is actually like there is no cooldown to it if you like use it properly. It's a very good skill, but I never got around to like using it properly. So it's very gimmicky when you have like 2 different dodges, but they are not on the same key. So I just didn't want to do it. But as I said, entire evade 3 is very good, especially if you are going for the momentum. But essentially this does all the weapons themselves have like a pretty good ultimate perks. For a rapier is the only weapon that you don't really need it. Like I'm not ever using flourish and finish because like that's part of it. It just it's a deals with the bleeds. It doesn't do as much as flurry can when it comes to your DPS. So what you want to do is basically grab the bleed. Bleed is essential to any of these builds. It's not about the bleed being that good, it's about it just enabling everything else. It adds like a lot of more damage. It adds a dot increases your damage, if you're using a musket, if you're using a bow. So everything about this skill is so simple. Like it's so simple, it's so good. You should definitely start with leveling this one. You can go into this tree and just grab the quick this one, so deal more damage when your stamina is below 40. So pick up this one, take the riposte. Riposte itself is just fine to have it when the enemy hits you with any attack, you press it. It's a very reaction ability compared to the other ones. Like you're not gonna be stuck like in animation. You can just attack with left click, and then when you see a big attack coming, just press it. It's gonna activate immediately. So that one is pretty damn good for leveling. Flurry in itself is the best, by far the best ability that you have in this one. Since we are talking about the DPS build, I'm gonna show you like what you need to do here. So we are gonna take the full trees. So I won't discuss too much about it, since it's pretty much self-explanatory. So each flurry deals more block damage. This one is tanks are gonna hate you for this. Like, once you get the good amount of if you get a good rolled rapier, like this one in PvP is very, very good. Like, once the mitigation thingy is inserted, like once the bugs and everything abuse of the Onyx gems, since pretty much at this point the stacked tanks are unkillable. Like, if he has like one healer, he's literally unkillable. You can have like 5 people doing DPS to him, he's just gonna block it all away. So Overwhelm, very good. Like in PvE, it's pretty much gonna break most of the blocks. Maybe the bosses themselves won't be affected by it, but itself it's pretty good. Why you want to have it is this one, Fleeting Strikes. This is the reason why Flurry is pretty much the top tier skill in the entire game. Like, there is not a single skill who can do as much damage as Flurry can because of this. So you hit with a full Flurry attack, which let's talk about it for a bit. 14 seconds cooldown. Enter a post stance and unleash a series of 5 quick thrust attacks, with each strike dealing more damage. Flurry can be dodge cancel at any time, so you can like dodge in middle of. That's why everything about the Rapier is great. It's a very mobile weapon. Everything that you do is on the move. Like, you stand for a second, you stab, you move, you constantly are on a move. This is not your axe where you just press left click and keep standing there and left click, left click, left click. You're constantly on the move. You want to be always behind the enemy. So with this one, essentially, whenever you hit, not this one alone, like Rapier has pretty much 3 or 4 cooldown reduction abilities, which makes it absolutely insane. So doesn't matter what number it is, like what timer it is on your cooldowns, they're always gonna be ready, just because of that. Each hit of Flurry extends the Rapier bleed by 1 second. This one goes so well with Tondo, because you can have 3 stacks of Tondo, which you're gonna talk. It's not, the blade itself is not that big of a deal. It's very good to have it, but it's not what the DPS is all about. Each causes enemies to stagger. This one is very decent in PvP as well, so it's just one skill, and you don't really have we talked, you saw the full tree, we didn't really have that many options to take something else, so might as well fill the tree entirely. Like, you can go without this one and, for example, take a heavy puncture or like a light edge, but taking the finalize, it's a very good option. But remember, this is just with the last hit of Flurry. In PvP you won't be expected to, if you hit the entire chain in PvP, you will, if it's a backstab, you will get pretty much everybody down to like 20%, if not kill them in like one full combo. That's how powerful the Rapier is. Alright, let's go back. So this entire tree, as I said, it's focused heavily on the cooldown reduction and the speed. And the speed, the way that you get so much of it and why it makes this build insane is this one. 3% haste for 4 seconds on any hit can stack up to 5 times. This pretty much gonna be the permanently on. It's, as I said, very mobile, very fast weapons, absolutely great. This one is, no matter what build you take, swiftness is one that you need. And critical strike reduces all cooldowns by 5%. Rapier by itself is the fastest weapon in a game. Like, nothing attacks faster than this. Like, if you, for example, just take, we are not gonna, this is just the normal attacks, and each of these can be sped up. Like the entire flurry, like the entire attack chain is so basically goes one swipe, then it goes like a double swipe, then it's like a third stab again, and they're all of this can be done in a matter of less than 2 seconds. Then you have flurry, which is like basically like 5 attacks, which I don't have right now since I did the respec. So let's go back to it. As I said, for leveling, take, this is pretty much the best way to level the skills, but as I said, leveling is not an issue in this game when it comes to weapons. Just keep using them. But if you want the most optimal, if you're just starting out, this is the 3 skills that you want. The only difference that you can take is if you don't like riposte, but you want to be more mobile, you can switch out. So basically everything stays the same, but instead of riposte you can take flash. Flash is gonna be the movement ability that I'm gonna talk about in a second on our other build, but for our main build, this is gonna be it. So you're gonna be taking riposte here, then let's move back. So this is the first tree that you want to like get full, but getting the crit and getting the haste is also very important. And then we have another one, refreshing strikes, reduces all cooldowns by 1% on any hit. 1 cooldown, 2 cooldowns, 3 cooldowns. You see where I'm getting at this? Like, flurry itself is not a big, it's only 14 seconds cooldown, it's around 13, 12 with decently rolled gear. This one is pretty much gonna make flurry, it doesn't even need to hit with all the attacks. If you just combine all of this cooldown reduction abilities you got, you're pretty much gonna have to hit like 3-4 times and maybe 1 light attack, and you have your cooldown back. And that's why this makes flurry absolutely top tier DPS skill. If anything changes with the dexterity weapons, which I think they will, maybe armor penetration or something is added, this is gonna be the best skill in a game by far when it comes to DPS. It still is, but it can just get better, like no matter what they do to dexterity weapons, because they need to balance them out. So, flurry, very very good. So we just fill out the tree. As I said, we don't really have too many options since we pretty much take all the passives. We are not taking ultimate abilities. The one that you can take, the momentum, is in order to take this one you have to give up on something on this tree. And personally, getting 25% increased damage on your next light or heavy attack after performing ability is great, but it's very situational. Like, I'd rather have flurry, because losing any of these for this, in my opinion, is never gonna be worth it if you are going for the pure DPS build. Alright, so what we have in the Tondo. So the way that Tondo works: slash so quickly that it extends the reach of your blade up to 5 meters. This strike deals 50% direct weapon damage but applies a bleed that will deal 85% weapon damage over 12 seconds. This can stack up to 3 times, refreshing previous applications. Like, with just 1 stack, then you can keep refreshing it with flurry as well, extending the bleed. So pretty much this one, as long as you can stay on the enemy, you will always have like 3 stacks of bleed. In PVE is crucial to have it, since we do have abilities that buff your damage even further when target is bleeding. And obviously here, okay, this one is very good. If you hit only 1 target, even on a blocked hit, the cooldown is reduced by 25%. As I said, another cooldown on top of all these other cooldowns. So Tondo is also gonna be like, it's one of your spammy abilities. Itself, it doesn't even have like that long of a cooldown. So improve your direct damage from Tondo by 100% if you are 4 meters away. Pretty situational, proper spacing, but if somebody is running away from you, if you manage to hit him at just the exact distance away from you, this can be a difference between him dying, because 100% on this ability hits by itself like pretty decently, so 100% more, very good. Alright, and now we go to the how can you further just increase the damage of the build itself. As I said, deal 5% more damage to targets with a rapier bleed. Bleed is always gonna be on. You have so many things that you can extend the bleeds, stack the bleeds, so pretty much 5% damage increase all the time. Deal 10% more damage when your target has greater than 50 health. So openers, your first flurry. So the way that you're gonna be doing the build itself is you want to open with Tondo always. Doesn't matter if you're in melee. Tondo is your first ability. Then you would maybe wait for a riposte, wait for the enemy to act, since the riposte will stun him for a second, which will give you a chance to pretty much do half of the flurry combo before he recuperates from that. So that's the way that the gameplay should work. So you open with Tondo, you maybe do a riposte. If enemy is not aware of you, if he's busy fighting somebody else, you can just go with Tondo and just backstab him with a flurry and keep spamming flurry, because it's gonna be off cooldown if you manage to hit all attacks. And now we're gonna move and finish the tree in a grace one. So deal 10% more damage when your health is full, also good. As I said, stamina on any hit 3% is fine, but like you need to hit a lot of times to actually get like one full dodge. So we're talking about 10 hits. Even with flurry, which is 5, you still have to do like your full combo of normal attacks. I don't know, I never felt like this one was worth it for... it's just not enough in my opinion. So let's talk about riposte itself. What is riposte? So enter into a defensive stance for 1 second. If struck during this ability, counter the attacker stunning them briefly for 1.5 seconds. You are briefly invulnerable, and this is the major key to like a riposte. And like Rapier is itself is not a very tanky weapon, but this ability makes you survive pretty much any attack. There is very few abilities in the game that can actually get you out of riposte. The only problem with this one is the timing. You only have 1.5 seconds to do the perfect riposte, but it's still one of the best abilities to avoid pretty much any damage in a game. If you see somebody glow, like bosses glowing in PvP, if you see somebody charging with an axe, especially the hammer stuns, even though it says on a hammer, I think one of their abilities says it goes through like pretty much everything, you can still stun them during this one. So, very good. Once you master this one, and it's very reactionary, as I said, as soon as you press it, the key is gonna start. So, very good ability. We're gonna take a small break, man. I need to drink, because my mouth is dry, man. We are cutting this part out. Right, so, insult to injury. If the riposte is triggered successfully, all attacks become interruptible for 3 seconds. And this was the key to the flurry build chain, so... If anything in this game you noticed is, whenever you get hit, no matter what you do, it's cancelled. Every single attack in this game, as soon as you get hit by the enemy, everything that you are doing, the chain is interrupted. So having this one is very good, especially if you want to do the flurry after the riposte. If you immediately drop it, you're gonna hit with all the attacks, or well, at least you're gonna use the full ability. And priority. Reduces cooldown of other rapier abilities by 20% when landing a riposte stun. You know, when I talked about all the other cooldowns, well, welcome to another one. So, 1, 2, 3 cooldowns. So we have 4 cooldowns just in the skill tree without any gear to take into consideration. Pretty damn good. This one, last and consequence, increases stun from riposte to 2 seconds. 0.5 seconds, it's... I don't know. This one, I was never for it, because it didn't feel that good to begin with. So this would be pretty much the way that the build, the DPS build would look like. So this is my main build. This is the build I'm gonna go for pretty much everything in PvP. As I said, the only thing what this build lacks if you're playing with a musket, problem is in open world PvP you won't be able, if you are using the medium armor, this build is made for you to stand and just fight. You won't be able to escape. If there is more than 2 people, there is no way for you to actually like gain any distance, because we don't have any good escape abilities apart from we can spam dodge few times, maybe riposte, but it's pretty much made for you to stay and fight. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for open world PvP, Flash might be like the better build for it, but in that sense, Rapier should be your secondary weapon, not your primary. If you're going like this, you're pretty much basing most of your DPS on a Rapier itself, and not a musket that we talked about. Alright, so we're gonna go to the other build. Other build is pretty similar. The only thing that changes, as I said, it's Flurry is your top DPS skill. But we are not gonna be taking it in a second build, so we're gonna go back. I'm gonna go all the way through this. So for the leveling purpose, you can always take Flurry again, but as I said, for this build is more about your mobility, movement, and open world PvP that is gonna help you not to get ganked as much if you're having issues with that. So what you want to do is pretty much take everything here and grab the cooldown here. So this is the main part that you need from this skill tree. Once we go into here, this is the 2 abilities that you're taking with you. Everything else stays the same. You both need the cooldowns and you both need the swiftness is just so damn good to not take. This part doesn't change, except this time we're gonna be taking momentum. So momentum is gonna be worth it now since we are investing more skills into the grace tree itself. So grab as many points. We're probably gonna have to take the lasting consequence if I remember correctly. So what is flash? Leave the ground lunging forward for 10 meters in a stabbing motion, piercing through the enemy dealing. So I'm gonna take this ability just to showcase it. So we're gonna be respecking again. And kills with this ability reduces cooldown by 80%. So mobility wise, this is pretty great in open world. So you see a rabbit, you see a turkey, anything with like low HP, spin through it. You're pretty much gonna have like instant cooldown back, so you can just keep spinning. If you find like in a low level area, you can just one shot pretty much anything, even the normal mobs, so pretty amazing. After deploying flash, your next regular strike will have its damage increased by 15%, last 5 seconds. And that's where we come to the backside, 15% more critical strike will do its 15% more damage. Then we have this one, increased damage by 25%, so both of this, your next light or heavy attack is gonna do significant amount of damage. So combination of these two, you still do a decent amount of damage, but it's not, the DPS potential is not even close without flurry. And there is one more thing that we need to talk about when it comes to flurry, and that's sustain, which is absolutely insane, especially in PvP. And you need just one, pretty much you need just one perk for it, which makes it absolutely great. So you can pretty much take this one. Okay, so for you, if you want, you can take the stun lasting consequence in this kind of a build, or you can just go with another swipe attack. Honestly, I would probably go here with deal more damage when health is full. I wouldn't go with the perfectionist, since 10% more damage, you are not doing the flurry attacks, and I would go with light edge first, increases damage from the both middle swipe attacks in the light attack chain by 8%. You're gonna be doing much more like light attacks in this build than you're gonna ever do with the flurry one, so this one is has more value than the perfectionist one. Up to you though. So we're gonna commit all these skills, and I'm gonna just show you how powerful the fly. Oh yeah, and there is like last one interruption. So pressing light attack anytime during flash will stop and perform a static continuation attack dealing 110% damage. So you can pretty much end the flash just by pressing the left click. This one is also pretty good in PvP. I'm gonna just show you how it works. So let me just do the way that. Alright. So the opener is always gonna be the same. You always want to have the bleed on a target before you commit to any kind of other damage abilities. So that one needs to be your first thing. This is flash. I haven't pressed the left click since I wanted you to see the full attack, full length of the attack. It's pretty long, and this ability, along with your ability to dodge 3 times before the cooldowns kick in, are gonna give you enough time to get the hell out of whatever is. You're gonna have people are gonna have hard time like catching up to you. The only problem right now is when Great X is bugged with 30% movement speed being constant. That's the only way for them to catch you like easily. Otherwise, this build is very mobile, and you can pretty much escape it as soon as possible. Riposte, as I said, it's automatically, it's a very reactionary skill, very great. I can showcase you the actual build outside. This is just gonna be the showcase, like how your pretty much is gonna be. The only thing that is different here, I can show you with the flurry as well. So you open up with your blade attack. You're probably gonna be dodging first, depending what you want to do. I always like open up with the dodge. As you can see, if you see down there, like that swiftness is stacking constantly. And when it comes to like reactionary, that was the riposte. Riposte is absolutely amazing against. You should never use riposte against normal attacks. I'm kinda used to it, but the way that you want to use riposte is any of the grid based attacks, or when you see somebody glowing, always use riposte. It's pretty much gonna nullify any damage. As I said, very few abilities in this game can actually go through riposte, and that goes as well in PvE. Like all those massive attacks, majority of them can be used with a riposte. The only problem is the timing. As I said, it's something that you need to get used to. Alright, and the last part I wanted to talk about is the gear itself. Gear doesn't change. This was just the continuation of our hybrid musket build, so hybrid rapier build is pretty much the same. You want to go with a medium. Like light armor is fine if you want to die a lot. And as I said that because if you play with a flurry, which we're gonna come back to, it's a very sustaining build, but in order to sustain flurry build, you need to have some kind of form of mitigation. Light armor is not that. You can forget about it. First of all, light armor at its current state doesn't give you all that much. Even though it says here 20% more damage with light armor. That's not true. It's 20% of your base damage, which if you round it up, ends up around like 7.5%. It's really not worth it for what you actually lose. Not to mention that medium part, it gives your debuffs, control debuffs apply to last 10% longer, so you still get more of that stun that lasts 1.5 seconds, so at least you get something out of it that is more worthwhile. But the gear itself, you want to go with the medium build. Heavy build is also fine. I just find the dodge very clunky on that one, and I don't feel like you should be in a heavy armors. And once the mitigation is sorted out, I think the medium should stay for us. So, the way to achieve the perfect harmony when it comes to the gear itself, we already explained it, but I'm gonna go through it again. Heavy helmet, heavy chest piece, medium gloves, medium boots, and light pants. This one pretty much puts you at 22.9. 23 is the threshold for the heavy armors, so this is your perfect amount of stats that you can have when it comes to like armed pieces. And one key thing that we want to talk about is this. This is how you sustain your flurry, like how you sustain your HP when you're playing with, as I said, all dexterity based builds, they're usually like ranged, more focused on range. You are pretty much squishy, like you're not wearing a heavy armor, you're not using great axe or like hatchet or anything that heals you, so it's very difficult to sustain unless you take flurry and this skill itself. Leeching flurry. Mine didn't roll that good. I think it goes up to like 35. I'm not really sure. I know it goes like higher than 25, that's for sure. But each hit, if I'm gonna switch the build and I'm just gonna show you how much for how much we actually hitting. But that one is how you sustain this build, and it's very good at sustaining itself. In PvP, especially once you get the good mitigation going. So let me just take the full build back, which was this. No, actually we were taking that one. We're gonna take that one. We're gonna take that. And we have 1 point, and that 1 point can either go into that one or the perfectionist. I'm gonna go with the perfectionist because I said like I'm not a big fan of controlled breathing. Just to double check that we took what we needed. Alright, put the Tondo there. Alright, so for this is a very low level. Maybe you should have went to the high level area. I can just doesn't matter for now. As you can see, like our Tondo just did all the work. But each one of these hits, so around like 700, it hits 5 times. 700, you're gonna be healing for so much sustain. Like, this is not even the most optimal one, but you have to take into account it's one enemy each hit. So each hit can hit multiple enemies, especially in PvP if people are piled up, which they always are. Each one of those hits are gonna be separate, and each one is gonna heal you separately. So you're gonna see so much. You can pretty much get a full HP bar if you hit like 4 people or something like that. Full HP bar back. And with the way that riposte works, you can avoid the big stun that happens. So you stun pretty much everybody around you. It's gonna be absolutely insane. When it comes to PvP, if you have a good gear, like you won't notice how powerful this weapon is until you can actually take few hits. I personally am not in a position right now. Like I'm slowly building the gear. I did get the legendary white band gauntlets right now, so I still miss a couple of key pieces. I'm not using even the resilient on everything. Once you have the full build going with the actual perks and when everything works as it should, with the mitigation, you can go toe in toe with pretty much anybody in this game. And that's why like flurry is rapier itself with the flurry based one is absolutely top tier. It's gonna stay a top tier weapon for a long time. If as I said, if anything changes to dexterity based builds, which I'm honestly expecting some kind of a buff, something to make them more to compete with pretty much anything strength based. Problem with the strength based weapons at the moment is that they scale all too well with the perks. We are not talking about the bugged ones, we are just talking how scaling works. They have a lot of damage in trees that give you like 30% buffs, which is absolutely insane. Something we don't have in dexterity based builds. The only one that has it, it's a bow, and it's with the heavy attacks, which you can stack to I think like 150% or something like that. So otherwise there is not really that much to it, and dexterity doesn't have like any of the perks of like maybe doing more armor penetration, which in my opinion it should. Anyway, that is for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you find it useful, make sure to like and subscribe. We're gonna be doing more of this kind of guides. If you have any questions regarding the build or anything New World related, ask in the comments down below, or you can check my Twitch. I stream 5 times a week. I'm gonna put everything down in the description down below. For now, Crew Templar out. Saluten. Bye!